What if nearly half of all domestic violence incidents involve mutual aggression? Could it be true that women sometimes initiate domestic violence at equal or even higher rates than men? Why does society seem more willing to believe a woman's story of abuse over a man's, even without proof? It's time to explore an uncomfortable reality: the abuse of men by women. For too long, the dominant narrative has portrayed domestic violence as solely a male-on-female crime, leaving male victims silenced, ignored, and even ridiculed. We must address the heartbreaking stories of men who have suffered abuse and been denied justice simply because of their gender. Let's first define abuse. Physical abuse is often the first image that comes to mind: a battered woman, a helpless victim. But what about the man who's been hit, punched, slapped, or threatened with a weapon by his partner? He fears reporting it because he knows he'll be perceived as the aggressor, not the victim. Data reveals that over 35% of domestic violence injuries are sustained by men, a statistic rarely discussed. Why is this reality suppressed? And there's psychological abuse, often invisible to the outside world. Approximately 40% of men in relationships experience it. Yet these stories are easily dismissed, twisted to fit a narrative where the woman is somehow justified in her actions. Society often trivializes abuse from women. A teenage boy groomed by a female teacher is not afforded the same sympathy or justice as a girl groomed by a male teacher. Men who are physically harmed or even killed by women are not seen with the same outrage as women who are victims of similar crimes. Too often, men are expected to police their own, held accountable for the actions of all men, while women's harmful behavior is rationalized. Many men are threatened with losing everything if they dare speak out. Women sometimes weaponize their children in conflicts, using them as pawns in psychological warfare, leaving men in silent agony. False accusations are a particularly devastating form of abuse, a loaded weapon ready to destroy a man's life with no chance of proving his innocence. A single false allegation can strip a man of his reputation, his career, his relationships, forever branding him with a mark he did not earn. Verbal abuse is another layer of emotional torment, including name-calling, sarcasm used to belittle, and emasculation, whether in private or in front of others. Women sometimes strategically use these tactics to control and manipulate their partners, undermining their sense of self-worth. Gaslighting is a particularly insidious form of verbal abuse, where the abuser manipulates the victim into questioning their own sanity, their perceptions of reality, and their memories. They might deny events that happened, minimize the victim's feelings, "You're overreacting," or shift the blame, "You made me do it." Sexual abuse is another area often overlooked in discussions of male victims. It can take many forms, from emasculating a man's performance to weaponizing sex itself. Withholding intimacy, leveraging it as a form of control, punishment, or coercion, can be deeply damaging. Refusal of sexual intimacy, when used as a manipulation tactic rather than due to genuine personal reasons, like stress or trauma, can be a form of emotional and psychological abuse. It allows one partner to dictate the terms of intimacy, causing emotional distress, resentment, and low self-esteem in the other. Using sex as a bargaining tool, offering it only in exchange for favors or compliance, reduces intimacy to a transaction, undermining genuine emotional connection. It creates a conditional relationship where one partner feels they must constantly earn affection. The intentional alternation between extreme affection and complete withdrawal, a tactic often seen in narcissistic relationships, is a form of intermittent reinforcement that creates emotional dependency and instability. The victim becomes addicted to the abuser's approval, constantly striving to regain it. Financial abuse is another devastating form of control, often involving running up a partner's credit card, draining their bank account, or threatening to take everything if they speak out. It can also involve a financial power imbalance, where one partner uses their earning power to control the other. Finally, digital abuse, including revenge porn, reputation slandering on social media, and harassment of new partners, is a growing threat in the digital age. Disturbingly, research indicates that partner violence is experienced and perpetrated equally by men and women, a fact often suppressed by mainstream media and academia. Why is this information hidden? Researcher Murray Strauss identified 7 methods used to conceal evidence of female perpetration. concealing the evidence, avoiding obtaining the evidence, selective citations, stating conclusions that contradict the data, blocking publications, preventing funding of research, and harassing or penalizing researchers. This suppression of data has serious consequences. It perpetuates a biased and untrue narrative, shaping our perceptions and limiting our willingness to accept the reality of male victims. It also impacts how crime is portrayed in the media, with homicides where men kill women receiving far more attention than cases where women kill men. So, what can be done? The first step is to acknowledge the reality of male victims and demand accurate data. Scholars must be allowed to publish their research without fear of censorship or reprisal. We need to be willing to accept that women are not always innocent. In the meantime, men must protect themselves in a society that often presumes guilt. This means keeping detailed records of events, gathering evidence, and seeking support from communities and organizations dedicated to men's rights. The reality is that millions of men are victims of physical, emotional, psychological, sexual, and financial abuse. We must start talking about it. The statistics reveal that abuse is not a gendered issue, it's a human issue. We must ensure that all victims, regardless of gender, receive the same level of attention, resources, and justice. Ultimately recognizing that cruelty and abuse exist across all demographics, regardless of gender, allows for a more nuanced understanding of human relationships and fosters a culture of empathy and support for all victims.